to the people.
Yes.
The president would have to speak to us for the very first time. 8 years ago, we had a rather terrible experience after enjoying such a beautiful speech. We know what took place afterwards, and so we'll be very keen on marking.
You want to say that we later found out that half the speech was plagiarized. You didn't want to go there.
but I mean, the point I'm making is we'll be very keen on listening to the incoming president, because whatever he says on that at that moment will set the tone.
Very significant, and it becomes the key speech that we are going to look out for at the end of the 4-year tenure. I mean, this president will be doing one term, and I say so because if you remember that speech, beyond the concerns about the plagiarism that had taken place, that speech many thought was a defining moment because it was the speech that the Ghana Beyond Aid was loudly trumpeted. I mean, the verdict is out there. 8 years on, the verdict is out there. I mean, we don't have to argue about it at all. I mean, we know how things have been.
Remember, it was also the speech that encouraged the people to be citizens and not spectators.
Well, that falls within the plagiarized text, and so you can understand if you are still not, you have some concerns about it. You are still,
if we were not allowed to be citizens.
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. But I mean, the keys, the significance of this particular address cannot be overemphasized. I mean,
absolutely.
We expect him to state quite clearly what his focus will be. And Mr. Mahama, in terms of His Excellency, I mean, during the campaign period, he had made a point strongly that he's an experienced hand. He's an experienced hand. He had been described by his political opponents as a second-hand driver. But the fact of the matter is that for the first time, we are going to have someone who is taking the oath, who has been president before. Mind you, he was at the presidency for 8 years, 4 as vice, 4 as president, then 8 years in opposition to see how Ghana has been managed, which in his opinion was mismanaged. He comes across with lots of experience.
I'm not sure it's just in his opinion.
So
we have the verdict is out there, especially after the last.
Let's just put it out. The Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagwin, has just arrived at the Independence Square where a parliamentary session is taking place right now. It's safe to say that he is the one who is going to preside over the parliamentary sitting today. Aside from the president-elect who's going to be sworn in today, he is the most important person at this gathering. If the speaker hadn't arrived, we still cannot proceed with this particular swearing-in ceremony. So with the arrival of the speaker, what you see there is the maze, and that has been set right before the speaker's seat. The maze is standing upright. What that means is that all is well and the session can take place. If the maze had been swung anywhere beyond the middle, then we would have an issue. Exactly. Because the positioning of the maze communicates a particular situation. So as we see it now, the maze is standing upright. What that means is that parliamentary business is set to take place. The Speaker of Parliament went round and beckoned on his deputies as well. As we do know, yesterday, in fact, the early hours of this morning, we had Bernard Ahiafo, who is the Akachi South Member of Parliament, sworn in as the first Deputy Speaker, and also the Member of Parliament in the Ashanti region, Fomena constituency specifically, Andrew Esiama Amoako, also sworn in as the second Deputy Speaker. In fact, he retained that particular position as second Deputy Speaker of Parliament from the 8th Parliament. He is the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament for this 9th Parliament as well. We're seeing as well Kofi Boachi, who was recently announced as part of the preparatory team for the Operation Recover All Loot Oral.
He's also part of
the security team as well. He has a lot to do in this administration. As a matter of fact, during the campaign as well, he was in charge of the security for the NDC in the Ashanti region. You see former National Security Coordinator Larry Bevlo-Lati as well in your shot. Kofi Totobi Kwachi as well, who was in charge of the Ashanti region security and operations for the NDC during the campaign. The former Finance Minister Setekpe as well, you just saw briefly in there. It is widely speculated, and that has not been disputed, that Case Latofosin, all things being equal, may become the next finance minister. And you remember, Dr. Case Latofosin deputized him Setekpe while in office as finance minister. We haven't heard so much of Setekpe apart from the day he appeared here during
Alfred,
after the elections on December 7th.
Another interesting point to note was yesterday the NDC, even as of now, do not have their front bench. The leadership of the NDC in Parliament is unknown. It is because what we've heard is that they are waiting to see if President-elect Mahama will appoint any of the front benches, the front benches from the 8th Parliament, whether or not any of them will be made ministers, because you wouldn't want to put all your eggs in one basket and maybe become the leader of the majority in Parliament, only for the president to also say, well, I actually thought I wanted you for this particular ministerial position. So they are hanging on more or less, because Kaisel Atuforsin, the current majority leader, is likely to be, like you indicated, if all things stay constant, likely to be the incoming finance minister.
Yesterday we were having a conversation and we were making a point that if you were in his shoes, would you want to take the risk and have new leaders constituted and wait to see what happens? And what if you don't get any position as is being expected? Then what happens then?
I'm sure at this level, there is a certain certainty. There's a certain certainty of where they will lean towards. And it's also good to see former President John Agyekum Kufuor holding the Ghana flag. Some people are saying he seems rather more excited about the fact that the John Dramani Mahama and the NDC are going to be managing the affairs of the country at least for the next 4 years.
Why is that? Because he's smiling.
He had his own issues with the outgoing government.
He had serious issues with the MPP. And even in terms of the incoming government, you recall when he had endorsed Dr. Baumia in the build-up.
Yes.
One of, if I could describe him as his protege of sorts.
Yes.
Absolutely. That was that interview that some 2 journalists had with him. A number of people thought that, look, that was a plan one that didn't really work according to plan. Many thought that he really descended into the background of that kind of politics that then drew him into the arena of insults. And he was really berated for what he did during that particular period. But it's also instructive to note as well that he still remains a key figure in the NPP. And going forward, as the NPP is talking about rebuilding, reorganizing into 2028, he's one person that you cannot overlook. He has his own caucus in this particular NPP as we have it. There are many who thought that the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo-led NPP caucus did not treat the Kufuor caucus that well. So a number of persons who identified with his caucus really did not have a good time over the last 8-year period. With Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at the helm of affairs. You've heard Boakye Jaako as well, the former energy minister, in that statement that he released. He says that there is this mindset that the party had been hijacked by one person who was behaving more like a Caesar. And so they need to seize their party back. Now, we'll see how things will play out in the coming days. Operation Recover Our Party, really.
just a bit of information on the arrangements at the square. Your call Kemini was talking about the colors. And so we understand that the red branded canopy is for the judiciary invited guests, which includes outgoing ministers, party executives, and the diplomatic corps. And in terms of the green branded canopy, special envoys, invited presidents, former presidents, and governors. Then there are 3 other black branded ones. Those are for the parliamentarians and spouses and parliamentarian staff. Then there is also 3 other yellow canopies. The first one is for the NDC Functional Executive Committee members. The second is for the former Vice President of Ghana and their spouses. And the middle yellow canopy is for the President-elect and Vice President-elect, the CJ, and the Speaker. And in front of that yellow canopy, as an extended platform, is for the Clerk and Marshal of Parliament. And so as and when those parts of the venue become available, we would connect to you and recap on who specifically are the individuals who are supposed to take that part of the venue.
So arriving now is Julius Madabio, who is the president of Sierra Leone. He is one of many presidents and heads of state who are expected to grace this all-important occasion. We have right now, as you're seeing, the minority leader of the 9th Parliament. How time changes so fast.
The immediate past majority leader, Kagame and Martin, want to say.
You probably want to say it so he feels good. But as of this morning, he is the minority leader because the 9th Parliament has been sworn in. So effectively, Alexander Afenyomarkin is the minority leader
as an
of
interesting
this 9th
man
Parliament.
you can see it. For those of you watching on TV, that is Jacob Zuma from South Africa. On your screens,
Martin, what do you do with the accent today?
It is interesting that we actually do have him in the country to support the swearing in of John Dramani Mahama, who a few days, just about 2 days after the final declaration, had to take a quick trip around a number of countries, so he reignites relationship.
In fact, there's an interaction he had with President Akufo-Addo at the presidency. I will say we managed to hear what they were talking about. Interestingly, when he met the outgoing president, we understand that the delegation from Equatorial Guinea are just arriving at the venue as well. And Martin, when he met the president, the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, told him that you've been touring the continent a lot. You are traveling around. I see you traveling around. And you know his response? He said that, look, he wants to hit the ground running. And he does not want to travel once he takes over. So he wants to have time to settle immediately he takes over. And that is how come he was doing the tours that ordinarily he would be doing once he's taking office. And so that comes back to the point that we're making earlier on about the fact that, look, this is someone who is an experienced leader.
He's been there, he's done that. He knows the terrain. Of course, there might be a change or two